This is what we're going to cover today. The RT21M 6215. This has an automatic ice maker in it. The one that has a recessed handle, there is no handle on the outside of the unit. We really This is one of the new things that we do. We really like it. Like I said, Encompass is the leading provider of original and aftermarket parts. One of the things that they have is, excuse me, is what is the if you have a if you have the easy stock. If I was a technician for about 15 years, so I have literally, I have done a lot of everything. Once I did once I was, turning wrenches for a living. I moved on and I started training, and I've been doing training and product management for appliances for about another 30 years. So one of the things that I always like to talk about a little bit is Easy Stock. This is the version here with Encompass. They have a proprietary program that they use. You can actually um, you can actually just start this Easy Stock. There's a video that you can go look on with YouTube. The this is, I wish that I had this whenever I was actually turning wrenches. Um, One thing that it does is it allows you to put parts that you have in your van so that you know exactly where everything is. You can even uh, fix it up so that your tools, some of the specialty tools that you have, you can put a label on it, and you know where those tools are at all times. So let's talk about the Samsung refrigerator. Okay, um, we literally we literally whenever we start with anything that I do, I always tell people the first thing you want to do is, if you're working on a Samsung product and it's in the United States, you want to go to the North America website. Okay. Then let's talk about some safety tips. We always want to unplug the appliance to begin with. Excuse me, we do not want we do not want to hurt ourselves or anybody else that's around. We want to make sure that we use the correct replacement parts. I'll give you a perfect example. I had somebody that was using an off-brand um, water filter, and it leaked, and the customer was very upset because they didn't, they paid to have it fixed, and they used an off-brand water filter, and it caused them a problem, and it leaked out on the floor and warped the floor. So you always want to make sure that you replace parts with good replacement parts. We don't sell gym line. We try to go with manufacturer. One of the things is, if you order a Samsung part, you're going to get it from us. Doesn't matter. It's going to say Samsung, but we do all of the Samsung parts in one of our locations. So you always want to, if you might as well go ahead and order it from us. Um, so one of the things is, when troubleshooting, verify that the wiring harnesses are connected properly. I'll One of the wiring harnesses for the refrigerator that we're talking about, it has a bad problem of separating at the quick connect plug. So you want to make sure that is all pressed together. You can get a excuse me, you can get an error on the refrigerator, and it's nothing more than the you gotta have to pardon me. Um, it's nothing more than it's nothing more than a loose connection. So you want to make sure that we check all of our connections to make sure that those are properly. And sometimes you may have to do something, you know, out of the ordinary. You may have to actually take it and zip tie the connector so that it stays together. Um, so we're gonna make sure that your refrigerator has got to be grounded properly. Here in the U.S., we now I have a house that has no grounding plugs. It's just an older house. It's built in 1950, so it's an old house, and I love it, but it's not really nice. It's not good, and I'm in process of redoing everything um, for outlets. Um, so one of the other things is we don't want customers that are trying. We do not want consumers trying to repair their 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 appliance. It could be if it's like with this refrigerator. I have had people saying, "Oh, I can repair an appliance. My refrigerators, I can do that. It's no problem. I can watch it a YouTube video." Um, I was actually because I go out and look at YouTube videos too to see what's going on, um, and we have to make sure that we're doing things properly. I mean, um, everybody understands that now it's not a $5,000 fine if you release any refrigerant into the air. Um, that now is a $25,000 fine per instance. Um, you have to make sure that you know how to do this properly. An R600 is highly flammable. It's basically a butane, so you want to make sure that we're actually recovering it properly, and we're not releasing anything into the air. Excuse me. Okay, so this right here is just another I call it where I can actually, is pictures to look at it. One of the things that I didn't touch on base on is that you whenever you're working on something, you want to make sure that everything is clean, and that you can make sure that there's no water that you're getting into the unit. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is what's on the board and where is it located on the board. Um, so we want to make sure that here's a diagram of what's actually in on the board itself. You notice that there's a AC power input coming from the top. Then there's a load control circuit, an MI EMI filter. There's another circuit, the SMPS circuit. You have your microprocessor right there in the center. Everything then runs off the microprocessor, and you can actually see exactly where this is and where it's going. Okay, so the this is actually a picture of the board, and if you notice that, CM30 is a shows that it has the external sensor, the ground, the defrost sensor, the fan. So that's going this board contains all of these, and if I'm going to check them, I'm going to need to know where I am going to be able to use my leads to tell me, where's the neutral, where's the hot wire, where's the ground. You need to know where all of that is. So in this is your breakdown of all of those connections. Okay. Here's another breakdown of the board. What's on the board? You can see there is the step valve at the very top. Um, the power coming in is coming from the very bottom. You can see on the on right there where it comes just about to the right side of the board. Okay. What do you need to what do you need to be able to whenever you're working on a refrigerator for this particular refrigerator? What do I need to be able to take things apart? You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. You're going to need a flat-headed screwdriver. You're going to need a socket wrench with a 10 millimeter socket. You're going to not need a 9 millimeter. I'm sorry, a 5 millimeter Allen wrench, and you're going to need an 11 millimeter spanner. Okay, it tells you exactly right here where these are. You know, your Phillips head is just about anywhere. So the next thing is whenever I'm going to remove the freezer door, we're going to have to um, this is for door swaps. Um, a lot of times whenever a customer comes in, they buy a product and then they get it home, and instead of it being a left hand swing, it should be a right hand swing or vice versa. So they're gonna here's how to remove the uh, the door so that you can reposition it so the swing changes. Okay, so we're going to remove three screws that hold down the tabletop, and remove the top table. You can see that they're right there. They're indicated by the circle, which is where I so that everybody knew where that went. You disconnect the connector. We're going to remove the cover cap for the freezer door. On some of the freezer door cover caps, just under that, there is a sensor, and you'll have to remove that. On this model that we're talking about right now, it doesn't have that, so you don't have to really worry about that one here. But on many of the Samsung models, there is an ambient sensor that actually that you have to be careful that you don't damage. Okay, so we're going to remove the hinge by turning by turning it counterclockwise. Then you're going to, after you remove the three screws, you're going to take the hinge off. You're going to remove the door, and you're going to do that very carefully. One thing I can tell you is whenever you pick that door up, be sure that you're ready for the weight. It's not so bad on the freezer section, but if you get down to the refrigerator section, you can actually drop that on your toe, and that's not a good feeling. There's some words that are usually go through that. So once I remove that door, the freezer door, I can then work down and take the center hinge off. Once I take the center hinge off, by removing the three screws, the two screws, then you're gonna be able to lift that door for the refrigerator off. Notice it says here, take care when moving the door to ensure it doesn't fall on you. It's not really that heavy, but you can damage the door. We want to make sure that we want to take care of the customer's property, and we also want to take care of not causing any injury to ourselves. Okay. One of the other thing is you always want to make sure that you've unplugged the refrigerator, and that's what we said at the very beginning. You want to make sure that you always have the refrigerator unplugged before I do anything. Um, the only time that I'm plugging the unit back in is whenever I'm checking voltage to certain options. I mean, certain circuits. Um, you want to make sure that you're not going to. There's nothing worse than whenever you don't think there's any voltage and there is. That's when mistakes are made, and that's when somebody gets hurt. Okay. Once we do that, we're going to disconnect the top plate. Okay. See the three screws there. We're going to disconnect the wires. on the door, disconnect the upper hinge. Whoop, I went too fast. We're going to right here detach the hinge from the lower hinge. We're going to disassemble the foot shaft, okay, and then move relocate the hinge assembly, okay. After we do that, we're going to change that foot shaft over to the other side. After we do that, we're going to fasten the foot shaft back together. We're going to disassemble the stopper and the auto close and the grommet. So if you see right here that this is a disassembly of those portion of these parts. Okay, we're going to fasten the stopper. If you see right here, putting the drill back on it, you notice that this is a drill that they're actually using. I recommend that if I'm doing this portion of it, that I don't like using a drill. I prefer to use a hand, like a real screwdriver, not a drill. Um, One of the things that you, whenever you're putting plastic, you're screwing into plastic or you're screwing through plastic, it's very easy to mess something up. So just make sure that you're not, if you're using this to drill in, make sure that you adjust it down to the lowest setting on don't use a drill. Adjust the chuck so that you're at the lowest setting, which is a 1. Okay. Um, Disassemble and assemble the grommet. You can see right here where they've used the screwdriver to kind of prise it up a little bit, and then they're going to push it the thumb back in. Okay, you're going to disassemble the top door and the side of the freezer compartment. You're going to disassemble the hinge. Okay, I went too far. Okay, we're going to disassemble and assemble the at the very top the cap space. We're going to assemble the grommet in the hinge. You're going to disassemble the hinge and the shaft in the hinge. These are all showing how this happens. You're going to assemble the hinge um, low and at the foot. You can see the foot there. You want to put that foot back in so that you can you can stop it from moving. One of the problems that you have is whenever you pull open the bottom door on a refrigerator, it has a tendency to move. So that you have to make sure that your foot is tight and on the floor, and that prevents it from moving. Okay. We're going to attach the refrigerator compartment door. We're going to put it back on. A lot of times people will take and lay this on their back, on the back of the, like the refrigerator lay on its back. I don't like to do that. I can pick the door up and I can make it so that I put the door in with it standing straight up. I don't I don't like this because you actually are supposed to wait. If you get it over about a 40-degree angle, you're supposed to let it sit for 24 hours. I have had technicians saying, "Oh, I don't have to do that anymore," but you never know. So I always did it whenever it was straight up and down like it normally would. Okay. Um, we're gonna once you get the door in, you're gonna put the hinge back in. You're gonna take and tighten all the screws back down. Once we tighten the screws back down, you can then put the top the top freezer panel on. Once you put the freezer panel on, you're then going to go and move back up to the back up to the back up to the top hinge. You're going to put the screws back in the top hinge. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing whenever you're readjusting it, you want to look at the door. You're going to make sure that it is level. Um, one from the left side and from the center mullion. You got to make sure that those are even and level. If you One of the hardest things is to make sure that the freezer door is level and that it doesn't rub on the refrigerator door. So make sure that whenever you're checking, make sure that you're going to check and make sure that everything is working properly. Once you do that, you're just going to reassemble everything in the hinge assembly. You're gonna put the little cap. You're gonna put everything through, and then once you do that, you're all set to go. Okay. Um, I'm going to unshare for a second. Um, does anybody have any questions as we're going along? Okay. So one of the things is the I'm sorry, was that a question or did somebody sneeze?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
That R600A, is that relatively new hydrofluorocarbon, or is it has it been in use for some time?
It is not a hydrofluorocarbon.
Oh, it's
It's
not.
basically, yeah, R600 is basically a Bic lighter.
Oh, butane?
Yes.
Anyway, I've never worked on refrigerators. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah. It is a new experience. You actually, I always tell people that you do not want to get a torch near that, um, because like I said, it's basically a Bic lighter, and if you have any refrigerant left in the system, you can ignite whatever's around you. I actually have heard of a person that literally was in a refrigerator, decided that he wanted to use a torch. Um, whenever he pulled the um, the high side, it literally ignited a customer's um, drapes that were right next to him. So
Wow.
that's what I'm saying.
Thank you so
And
much, sir.
go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And even a hydrofluorocarbon is actually you can get you can still ignite a hydrofluorocarbon, and of course you just want to be careful whenever I'm doing any seal system work. I try to get it so that I'm not anywhere around anything. Um, is there any other questions?
Someone asked what EPA cert falls under refrigerators.
I'm sorry.
What EPA certification falls under refrigerators?
You have to be certified from the EPA. There are three classes. I have the basic class. You can go that allows me to recover any refrigerant under 2.5 pounds. Anything over 2.5 pounds requires a different certification. After that is the universal, and I can recover anything if I have a universal. You can go to the EPA website, and it will show you exactly what you need for what you're doing. Refrigerators require very little gas anymore, so they're you can if you're just doing refrigerators, you're fine. You're fine with just a class one. Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
So in that scenario in future, it'd just be good to probably have presses in order to do your sealing on your fittings and everything like that.
Yes. There are two methods out there that you can do this with. One is a lock ring. That
Okay.
is that's what we recommend. We actually sell the kits for lock ring. They're not cheap, but they're you get what you paid for. You can actually do any refrigeration. You can do that with a lock ring. You don't have to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a butane. It can be of hydrofluorocarbon. One of the things that's great about a lock ring is I can actually, if you look at this first picture, I can actually take and cut out a little bit, and they make excuse me, they make a fitting that goes from aluminum to aluminum, so I can actually repair
Oh,
the
that's
the
nice.
aluminum that's in this evaporator coil. So I can save a customer, $100 just because you don't have to order the evaporator coil. I can use the lock ring method and repair and it will work just as well um, as anything else.
And we're not worried really about a minimal release of refrigerant with the lock ring.
Well, if you're still doing hydrofluorocarbons, yes, yes,
Okay.
it has gotten so bad that if you don't have the correct shut off tool, you actually release enough to incur the expense of $25,000 if the customer reports you.
All right.
If I'm using R600, um, I recommend that everybody once again it's a butane fuel. Okay, I don't release it into the room, because if the customer has a stove and the stove is on, you could actually have enough to ignite the gas that you're releasing. So you want to recover it and usually Whirlpool many years ago still, and they still do, they have a plastic bag that you can fill up, and you don't have to recover this into a tank as we're sitting here today. Um, is that headed that way? That's one of those questions that I don't know the answer to. I would tell you that probably so. Um, but today you don't have to recover it. You can just release it into a bag. Okay. So I want to talk about this sensor. All these sensors have that's on this evaporator sensor. One of the things that I have discovered is that sometimes this sensor doesn't really read properly. Um, it's either some of the times I have had to use wrapped the sensor with tape, electrical tape, and then reattach it. Sometimes you need to move the sensor um, closer to the where it changes from a liquid to a gas. You just
Suction
need to
line,
make sure. Go ahead.
suction line.
Yes. Thank you. So what you do is you remove the sensor from the evaporator, you move it out of the housing. You're gonna look at these. You got on this, you have I've marked the screws that are present in this. So go ahead. Did somebody
I don't think
This is
anyone,
the one thing
I think they just
that's
forgot to
difficult.
mute themselves.
Okay. All right. So there's, excuse me, there's 6 screws that you're gonna have to remove. And then once you take those 6 screws off, there's another 4 screws. Okay. Once you remove that housing, you're going to have to very carefully move it to the side so that you can unplug that connector. Then you can, once you unplug that connector, you can actually move it out of the way. Okay. Then you can remove, after you do that, there's 3 screws that hold the fan in. And then you can remove the fan. There's pictures of where the screws are located, and then on the very bottom you can see where somebody's putting the screwdriver in to remove it. Okay. At that point, you can then remove the sensor. Yep, too far. Okay. This is the inside, and then as you remove it, you can tell right there where they're unplugging that sensor. That's where you have to be very careful with the where the fan is. You can see that the fan is just below the picture on the right, the person's hand. Um, that you can rip that and actually damage you have to buy a whole new fan because that comes as the assembly. So you want to just be able to unplug it, and then you can set that to the side. Okay. Then you can remove the sensor housing. You can remove the sensor from the evaporator. You can see that happen right there. Remove the screws from the multicolor, excuse me, the multi-cover. Unfasten the hooks and remove it. Okay. You can remove the sensor from the multi-cover. You can see right there where the sensor is located on the bottom left-hand picture. Okay. You can pull the bottom part of the fan, and then you can remove the fan itself once you've removed those screws. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna tell you about we're gonna take about maybe 3 minutes, and I'm gonna tell you right now that if you have never worked on a Samsung ice maker, it is it's something that you have to be very careful of. Depending on which ice maker you're working on, this ice maker has a has a um, has a tube that runs across the bottom of the ice maker. In many of them, my father has one that you literally it's a top mount refrigerator, and if you damage the little ice maker loop, you actually end up buying a whole new refrigerator. So you need to be very careful whenever you're taking all this apart. On this model that we're talking about, it doesn't have this loop that has a refrigerant line running through it. This is just simply 4 screws or 2 screws, and then you pull it out, and then you expose the connector over there on the right um, top right picture. You can unhook that, and you can just move it out of the way. Okay. Then if we do that, we can then remove the 2. Now we're talking about, this is down in the freezer section. Okay. This is not in the refrigerator section. The one that I'm talking about is in a side by side. I'm sorry, not a side by side, a 4-door refrigerator. So this is a little different. This is just our top mount refrigerator. But I just wanted to tell you to be very careful make sure you know what you're doing, and which ice maker you're going on, because if you do damage it, then you're going to end up in a whole lot of problems. You'll have to buy a refrigerator. But anyway, this is in the up in the top section of the refrigerator. So you take the two screws out, you pull it forward, it exposed the connector. You unhook the connector, then you remove the screw caps, and then you can remove the screw. You have to be very careful with these, because the little screw cap, I usually end up using a knife. I carry a pocket knife with me all the time, and I use that. But you have to be very careful, because as you're pulling that out, it'll fall, and it will fall on the ground. And I always keep a couple of spares in my tool pouch, because once you've dropped these on the ground, you almost can never find them. So just make sure that you're very careful with them whenever you're pulling these screw caps off. Okay, so we're going to remove those screws. Okay, once again, make sure that the unit's turned off. So you want to unplug it, or go to the circuit breaker and turn the circuit breaker off. Okay, once we do that, we can remove the lower portion of it, and then remove the housing on the top right. You notice the easiest way to do this is to reach both of my hands in and pull up and out on the cover. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the water valve. This water valve uses a Quest fitting. Is everybody familiar with a Quest fitting?
No, sir.
I'm guessing that everybody is familiar with a JQ Quest fitting. Okay,
Not all of us.
Okay,
No.
all right. So the thing about a JQ Quest fitting is it's very easy to push it in. Into the water valve itself. To get it out, you have one of two methods. Okay, they make a little tool that you can press into the fitting, and you can remove it. You can see right on the very bottom where the guy is pulling it out. That's because he has that little tool, and he can then pull that out. You can do it with a screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver. It's a little more difficult. The problem is I usually lose that tool, so I'm the one that usually uses the flat bladed screwdriver. So that's all a Quest fitting is that it's very easy to put them in. The one thing you want to make sure is that whenever you get done, that you literally make sure that that's tight and it doesn't pop out. Watch it through one cycle whenever it calls for water. Okay. Once you put that fitting back together, don't just seal it up and walk away. You can damage a floor if that happens to pop out. So watch it for one cycle. It doesn't take long. It's about a 3-minute process, and you're all set. And then you can button it up and you're ready to go. Okay. So I have now done this. I've removed it out. I'm going to remove the screw. I can remove the 3 screws that are run along the outside of the refrigerator. I can remove that line if I need to do that. So you can remove the screw at the top of the cabinet. There's 2 of those. Then it exposes the inlet. One of the things that you may need to do, some of the times once this has been a couple of years, you may have to find you a piece of insulation to repack in there. it literally some of the times will you just need it because it doesn't the insulation is not good anymore. Okay. At that point, once I remove that cover, I can actually pull that pipe assembly out. One of the things that you need to do, but once you remove that and you put it back in, you need to walk around to the front of the refrigerator, make sure that whenever it came back in, that it is at the same spot for the fill cup. If you don't, you can spray it all over the. I've seen people that sprayed it all over the inside of the freezer compartment. I've seen people that they didn't put it back in exactly right, and it drips and has problems with your you have problems with your oh my goodness, 751. We have problems with getting the unit, getting that fill cup back in because it freezes. Okay. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes on entering the diagnostic mode. We're already over it. We're almost over the time. Okay. So to enter this test mode, okay, if you're going to look at this refrigerator will tell you what the problem is. Okay. If so what I'm going to do is simultaneously, very key, simultaneously, I press the freezer and the fridge button. Okay. I'm going to hold that. Okay. For 4 seconds. Okay. Once I have done that, the display will start blinking. Okay. Once it starts blinking, I'm going to press the freezer button one time. Okay. Once I press that freezer button one time, okay, we're going to enter this it enters into the test mode. Okay. You're going to get 4111. Okay. Enter, and that tells you that you're in the test mode. Okay. Okay. For models with the electronic displays, you're going to get 41111. Okay. If the freezer button and the fridge button on the panel PCB are simultaneously pressed for 4 seconds, the panel will turn on and off. It'll turn the panel on off. Okay. So it's gonna blink about every half a second. Okay. If you take your finger off the freezer button and the fridge button, the product will enter the test mode. So now you're in the test mode. Okay. What does the test mode give me? Okay. So I'm going to kind of go down a little faster because I want to get it to right here. Okay. If I get an F, it'll tell me an F5, which is a defrost sensor error. Okay. If I have an ambient temperature sensor, which the one that we're talking about actually doesn't, you'll get an F4. If you have just the freezer sensor, you get if it's an F3, it's either open or shorted. So once again, you have to go back and check your connections for this. Okay. The refrigerator sensor gives you an F2 if you have a faulty refrigerator sensor. If you have a defrost sensor, that's going to give you an F1. Okay, these are very key. Now I have this is an R6, which is the refrigerator fan restriction. So you're going to have to see if there's anything blocking the fan. If you get this error, if you get an R5, that's the condenser fan restriction. Okay. The compressor fan is a compressor error. It was an R3. Excuse me, I went too fast. The fridge off LED is was also a sensor, and there's a picture of that right there. the power freeze if it lights up, the power freeze LED lights up, you have a fan restriction in the sensor. Okay, if the ice on LED is lit, you have an ice maker sensor, and it could be that you have a function error. Okay, once again, the F3 is the freezer sensor. Okay, so if I go in and I'm going to measure it, so I'm going to go to the main board on the PC between pin 6 and 7. You should be within 4.5 plus or minus 5 volts DC. Okay. If I have an F2, okay, I'm going to go to the main PCB. I'm going to go to the CN31 pin. You could go between pins 7 and 8. You should be within right around 4.5 plus or minus 0.5 volts. Okay. If I have a defrost sensor, I'm going to go to the main PCB. I'm going to go to the CN30. I'm going to go between pins 4 and 5, and this should be 4.5 volts plus or minus 5.5 volts. Okay. If your fridge light off comes on, it's this voltage between the main PCB CN31 in between pin 3 and 4. You should be somewhere around 4.5 plus or minus 5 volts. Okay. If you get an F4, I'm going to go to the PCB CN30 plug. I'm going to go between pin 2 and 3, and it should be somewhere around 4.5 volts plus or minus that 0.5 volts. Okay. If I get an R6 error, the voltage between the main PCB CN30 plug between pin 9 and 8 should be somewhere around 7.5 volts plus or minus 1.2 volts. Okay, power freeze, if that lights up, means we have a refrigerator fan error. The voltage between the main PCB pin plug number 31 between pin 10 and pin 9 should be somewhere around 7.7 volts plus or minus 1.2 volts. Okay, I have one more, and then this is the R5. We're going to go to the main PCB. We're going to go to pin CN75 between pins 5 and 6. Should be somewhere around 7 volts, plus or minus 1.2. If I have an F5 error with the freezer defrost error, I'm going to go between on the main PCB, the pin connector of CN72. I'm going to go between pin 5, and then on CN73, I can go to pin number 1. You should get about 260 ohms. Okay. If I get 0 ohms, I've got a short. Okay. If I have plus or minus ohms, where it just goes plus or minus, it'll move. That's going to tell me that I have an open bimetal fuse. I mean a thermal fuse. Okay. If my ice maker error, I'm sorry, I'm going through these really fast. If my ice maker is on, it's my ice maker sensor. The voltage on the main PCB on connector CN90 is between pin 4 and pin 3. Should be 4.5 volts. Okay. After you, if that is not right, if that's not what you're reading, then you're going to have to replace it. The ice maker function test error after replacing the ice maker plug in the unit, and check the operation. Okay. So guys, I'm going to go back if I can get there it went. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
I got
sorry
one.
that I had to run through these at the very end. We ran out of town. We ran out of time. So Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. That whole information of the step-by-step process of how to diagnose and troubleshoot that freezer, where
Yep.
would we be able to find that, or that material, or things like that?
Sure. Emmy, have you got my email? You've got my email.
Yes,
If
yes,
you
I have.
want to, if you want to send me an email asking me for that information, I will send it over to you. Give me a couple
Okay.
of days, especially give me if you're going to send it tonight, give me 4 days because from here I'm going to Mississippi. So, and I won't be home at my house sitting until Sunday. So if you need that, just send me an email and I can do and I'll send it that information to you. One of the things is you can go on YouTube and you'll be able to find a lot of this information on YouTube.
Okay. Cool.
Does it? Go ahead.
I've got a question for you, Mitch.
Okay.
I'm so used to these units using a high amount of BTUs, and we talk about efficiency as far as heat loss is concerned and so forth. So what are these systems running at, like 3 BTUs? How low are they? And what's the deal on that?
Well, I mean, that's the reason that's the reason that everybody is trying to conserve as much energy as they can. That's the reason, if you think about it, the flex tray has been around since the 40s. They're doing everything that they can to conserve energy. You're right about the BTUs. It's around, depends on which manufacturer, but they're all trying to get somewhere. I think that this one is at about, I think it's 3.5
Wow,
BTUs.
that's
Yeah,
cold.
yeah. But everything that they can do to save energy, everything is on the board. That's the reason we've gone back. If you've been working on these for a while, the heat mold ice makers. I love a heat mold ice maker. Okay, I can actually, I can actually. It produces 3.5 pounds of ice. This one produces basically 110 cubes a day, which is nowhere near 3.5 pounds of ice. So, but it's the old adage that you got to give up something
Sure.
to get where you got to be.
So it's like 3.5 BTUs per kilowatt hour then,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, something like that.
That's pretty good though, actually.
Yeah, I can't.
Thank you, Mitch.
I'm pretty soon we're gonna go back to where we just put a big old chunk of ice up on top and let it drain, and then water the yard with everything else.
Uh, yeah, I can see that.
On behalf of the members, man, we thank you for your time in this regard. We thank you for Miss Emmy and the Skill Cat team for setting this all up for us and allowing us to take the initiative to learn. Very grateful for this opportunity. And keep up the good work, man. You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I listen. It's late here, and it's a whole lot later than it is. Uh, Emmy's a whole lot later than my time. But thank you guys because I know that most of you have had a day already, and you're working through the end of your day. Thank you for everything that you do for us, and like I said, if you need parts, come to Encompass. We'll take care of you.